Mamma mia.
Mamma mia. Okay.
Mamma mia.
Yeah, let's go back to our this is still recording it and share screen. Okay. Okay, so I think that we've done enough for it. We can go and be very serious at the moment if you want. And this one. Let's start a new. Let's go to page 98. 2 murder mysteries. Okay. Let's go on question tags, vocabulary regarding crime, intonation in question tags. You were a detective with Scotland Yard, weren't you? Yes, I was. Have you heard of Jack the Ripper, girls?
No?
What?
Jack the Ripper sarà Jack lo squartatore, no?
Oh, yes, it is. It is.
Ah,
The
okay.
Ripper.
Yeah, the Ripper.
The Ripper.
Yes.
Pizzega.
Yeah, one of the great unsolved murder mysteries of all the time is that of Jack the Ripper. Okay, now we have to trying to match these words and definitions. These are all words connecting to crime. I'm sure that some of you, this is something that I was just thinking yesterday, and I think I'm gonna write something on it. That is when I tell you that it's so important to watch film and video in English. If you study just on books, of course, all the vocabulary that you can get is never too wide. Like if you are following, for example, films or serial or anything on the TV, because of course they're using a kind of vocabulary that is much more common probably, but not so easy to find in books. Actually, this book is quite good because it's trying to put any kind of vocabulary. So let's start with this vocabulary on crime, that it could be familiar for people that love thrillers. Okay, so we have detectives, evidence, murder, murderer, proof, soul, suspects, victims, and witnesses. Okay, let's start going here and find the right one. Myla, number 1.
Detectives, noun, police officers who investigated crimes.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Anna, number 2.
People who see something which has happened and they tell others, example, the police, about it.
Yes, about it. Who are
Witnesses.
they? Witnesses, yes, witnesses. Carla, number 3.
People who are hurt or killed by somebody in a crime. Victims.
Victims, yes. 4, Elisabetta.
4. A person who plants and kills another person. Murderer.
Murderer, yes, murderer. Okay, Myla.
Noun, the crime of killing a person illegally and deliberately.
Yes.
Murder.
Murder. So we have murderer and murder. They're both nouns.
Defects,
Signs.
signs, etc., which tell you who committed the crime.
Yes.
Prove.
Actually, it's a prove is a verb. It's not a noun. Here we need the noun. The facts. In
Evidence.
Italian, yes, is the evidence. The evidence is what in Italian we call le prove. That's why we say prove, but prove is a verb. Le prove si dice evidence.
Evidence.
Evidence, yes.
Ma in questo caso è un nome plurale? Si usa il verbo al plurale riferito a evidence? Tipo people?
Il sostantivo, vuoi dire?
Cioè evidence è un nome che indica
Diciamo che è un nome cumulativo. Sì,
tipo
le
people.
prove, esatto, sì, sì.
E allora
prove,
si dice evidence are.
The evidence are, yes. Yes.
Okay.
Ok. And then it's, infatti qui ti dice, vedi, the facts, signs, tell you who committed a crime. Ok. Go Carla, number 7.
People who are thought to be guilty of a crime. Suspects.
The suspects, yes. 8.
8. A mystery verb to answer to why something happened.
Yes.
To find the correct answer. Solve.
Solve. Solve. Find the correct to solve. Yes, perfect. And last but not least, Myla.
Prove, verb to use facts and evidence to show something is true.
Yeah, prove that. Ok, bravissime. Let's listen to them.
(5.34) 1. Detectives. 2.
Witnesses.
3. Victims. 4.
Murderer.
5. Murder. 6.
Evidence.
7. Suspects. 8.
Solve.
9. Prove.
Okay, so all this word, we have to complete the gaps with these words that we have found here in the text, okay? Let's read it, and you should have it in your book, all the words. So you should find out the right one and put in it. So each paragraph is written by a girl, and as usual, as we have here in the list, we got Myla, Anna, Carla, and Elisabetta. Okay, one paragraph each, try to find it out, the missing word. Go, Myla.
Allora, who was Jack the Ripper? One of the great unsolved murder mysteries of all time is that of Jack the Ripper. In the autumn of 1888, a brutal murder walked the dark, foggy streets of London, terrorizing the inhabitants of the city.
A brutal murderer. Okay. 3. Number 2, Anna.
The victims
Yes. Yes.
were all women, and
all
the police
women.
The police seemed powerless to stop the murders.
Yes, the police seemed powerless to stop
police,
the murders.
dico
Yes.
police.
Perché è tipico di noi italiani porre l'accento in questo modo su alcune parole, non ti preoccupare, è comune.
Police.
Alla francese.
Infatti.
Ok, Carla.
Carla in che senso?
Leggi da qua e vai avanti.
Ah, ok.
Carla, in che senso è bellissimo?
No, perché il paragraph mi sembrava che...
Ah, vabbè, diciamo fino al punto, anche se non è...
Ok, allora Carla, in che senso? Mo ci siamo.
Ok.
There were no witnesses to the crime, so the police had no idea what the murderer looked like.
Ok. Vai fino al punto perché tanto non c'è solo da leggere.
Panic and fear among Londoners was increased by a letter sent to Scotland Yard by the murderer. In the letter, he made fun of the police attempts to catch him and promised to kill again.
Ok.
Promised to kill again. It finished, yours truly, Jack the Ripper. This was the first of many letters sent to the police.
Oh.
The murders continued, 7 in total, but in November they suddenly stopped, 3 months after they had first begun.
Ok, Elisabetta.
Jack the Ripper was never cooked, and for more than a century, historians, writers, and detectives have examined the evidence,
yes,
and tried to discover and prove his identity.
His identity, yes, his identity, yes. Myla?
Hundreds of articles and books have been written and many films made about the murders. But the question, who was Jack the Ripper, was remained unanswered. There have been plenty of, including a doctor and a businessman and a painter and even a member of the royal family. There have been plenty of suspects.
Suspect, yes, suspect.
Do you?
Yes.
The American crime writer Patricia Cornwell tried to real-life murder mystery of Jack the Ripper. Tried to
Manca una, mi sa.
Sorry. You have to share it.
to solve.
Okay, yes.
The real-life murder mystery of Jack the Ripper. After spending a considerable amount of time and money on her investigation and analyzing DNA
samples,
Cornwell thought that she had proved who Jack the Ripper really was. However, other experts disagree with her, and a new theory has recently been put forward.
Ok, questa parola, considerable, attenti a non mettere come, questa è un'altra parola che viene messo sempre, lo stress su able, invece no, è considerable, ok? Considerable. So after spending a considerable amount of time and money on her investigation and analyzing DNA samples, Cornwell thought that she had proved who Jack the Ripper really was. However, other experts disagree with that, and a new theory has recently, the stress is at the beginning, recently been put forward. Okay, very good. Okay, but now let's try to answer to these questions. Myla, number 1.
Where and when did the murders take place?
Mm-hmm.
Where in London?
Yes.
And when the end of 19th century?
Yes.
1888.
Yes, in autumn 1888. Yes. Yes, in the autumn 1888. Anna.
How many murders were there? The murders were all women.
No, how many? How many?
How
I want to
many?
know
How
how many.
Quante? Non...
There's somewhere that say that.
Seven.
Seven in total. Seven in total.
Seven in total. Ah, okay.
Yes, there were seven in total.
Seven in total.
Yeah, Carla.
How long did the murders go on for? 3 years.
Yes, 3 months actually.
3 months.
Just 3 months. 3 months.
Only?
Yeah.
And he became so famous.
Yeah, I mean, in 3 months, 7 people died.
Yes.
Yes.
Quite a lot. Yeah.
Probabilmente è morto
But
pure lui a prescindere.
Probably, yeah, that's probably what's happening because otherwise they were probably. Yeah. Elisabetta.
Who are the main suspects?
The main suspects.
They think that it will be remember a doctor, a businessman, a painter, and perhaps a member of the royal family.
Oh yes, that's what they say. That's what they say, yes. Ayla.
What does Patricia Cornwell usually do? Was a writer?
Yes, she's a writer. She's a writer.
Try to solve the...
She's a writer. And how, Anna, did
How did she try to solve the mystery?
Yes.
She analyzed DNA samples.
Yes, she analyzed the DNA samples. Yes. Even this word, sample. Questa l'avete trovata sicuramente chi lavora negli uffici, samples, sono...
Anche quando si faceva l'uncinetto. Sì, è vero. Erano i quadrati, no?
In questo caso traduce...
I reperti. I reperti.
Sì, esatto. I sample sono proprio è un altro modo di dire,
i pezzi.
Le prove, i pezzi, esatto, i pezzettini, esatto.
E lì subentra l'uncinetto.
E lì subentra l'uncinetto.
Quindi scatta l'uncinetto.
Esatto, bravo.
DNA e uncinetto.
Ok.
Sai che cosa anche i samples? Presente quelle coperte americane che sono fatte tutte a pezzi?
Che si chiamano
di stoffe diverse?
Kilt.
Ah, kilt.
E ha un nome
tipo
un po'
patchwork.
Patchwork, tipo patchwork.
O patchwork.
È proprio una parola, ora ve la posso anche trovare al volo.
Ma patchwork è un compound name.
Brava!
Brava Maila!
Mia, ragazze!
Hai capito come ce l'ha tirato fuori sto
Come
patchwork?
te le sparo lì così.
Non potevamo fare a meno di notarlo.
Allora, adesso vi trovo kilt, che sapete com'è lo spelling?
Quilt.
Detta proprio volgarmente. Vado in un altro stop sharing and I share this. Eccolo qua.
Quilt. Quilt.
Ok. The decorative cover for a bed. E qui la mette così.
Duvet pure.
Duvet è più il piumino perché è imbottita, è l'imbottita, duvet, il piumino imbottita. Continental, che infatti eccolo qua, vedete?
Sì.
Duvet.
Duvet è proprio la parola francese
La
e
francese.
si pronuncia proprio alla francese, duvet. Duvet. Mentre invece il patchwork, che noi in Italia abbiamo sempre chiamato patch and work, a compound word.
Patchwork.
Mamma, oggi il bacon, prof, c'è una fame.
Sì, oggi bacon and egg.
Mamma mia.
Che è la stessa cosa. Clothes made by sewing together a lot of smaller pieces of cloth with different patterns and colors, or the activity of doing this. Per cui non è solo riferita alle coperte, soprattutto, ma anche all'attività. Tant'è che è diventato negli anni 60, era molto in auge, con molto hippie style. Infatti, a patchwork quilt. Ok, doing patchwork. Bravissime. Let's go back in our page. Okay, and let's see a bit more about these Jack the Rippers. Now listen the first part of an interview with a retired police inspector who is an expert on Jack the Ripper. Now complete the information about the suspects. So here we have 4 suspects. Prince Albert, Queen Victoria's, who know the story already knows the
husband.
Yeah. Then Maybrick, a cotton merchant. Then we have waiter Sickert and
actor.
We don't know. And Carl Fagerbaum. Okay. We have to find it out by listening. Okay, so now we listen and we found the 4 missing words. The only one that is for sure is Prince Albert because it was Queen Victoria's beloved husband.
.35. Good morning, and thank you for coming, Mr. Morton. Or should it be Inspector Morton? You were a detective with Scotland Yard, weren't you?
Yes, that's right. For 25 years. I retired last year.
People today are still fascinated by the identity of Jack the Ripper, around 125 years after the crimes were committed. It's incredible, isn't it?
Well, it's not really that surprising. People are always interested in unsolved murders, and Jack the Ripper has become a sort of cult horror figure.
Who are the main suspects?
Well, there are a lot of them, but probably the best known are Prince Albert, Queen Victoria's grandson, the artist Walter Sickert, and a Liverpool cotton merchant called James Maybrick. And recently we've heard about another possible suspect, a German sailor called Carl Feigenbaum.
Okay, so we were wrong. It wasn't the Prince Albert of Queen Victoria's husband, but Queen Victoria's
grandson.
Grandson. And what was the name of Maybrick?
James
Maybrick. And Walter Sickert was an
German sailor.
A German sailor. And Carl Fagerbaum?
A Chinese.
No, you are just...
No, Carl was a German sailor.
No, Walter Sickert was an artist.
Was an artist.
Oh,
yes.
I lost a piece of the story.
Yes. So Queen Victoria's grandson, James, an artist and a sailor.
A sailor.
Yeah, that's it. Now we're going to listen the second part of the interview and mark the sentence true or false. So we have to discover now. 1. Cornwall's evidence is mainly scientific. True or false? She took DNA samples from a letter written by Sickert. art lovers were angry with Cornwell. There is evidence that Sickert was abroad at the time of some of the murders. There is a letter that some people think Maybrick wrote confessing the crimes. Inspector Morton thinks that Prince Albert was a serial killer. Carl Feigenbaum was executed in London for another murder. Trevor Marriott found that Feigenbaum had traveled to London at the time of the murders. And the inspector doesn't want to say who he thinks the murderer is. He doesn't think the mystery will ever be solved. Okay, so I put aside all the parts, and today we are going to do something different. While we are listening, where is the place where is telling if it's true or false? I try because I don't know if I have the time to stop the audio and to see what you think about it, okay? So I don't let you listen everything, but
Okay.
I stop time by time.
Okay.
Okay. If I can, because you know, sometimes they just, but I tried to go back and forward.
5.36. Patricia Cornwell, in her book Jack the Ripper, Case Closed, said that she had identified the murderer and that she was convinced that Jack the Ripper was in fact Walter Sickert, the painter. What evidence did she put forward to support this claim?
Well, she mainly used DNA analysis. She actually bought a painting by Sickert at great expense.
So, Cornwell's evidence is mainly scientific.
Prof, mainly cos'è?
Principalmente.
True?
True, because it was doing
Because use DNA.
the DNA, yes, but he told, but I go a bit backward. She took DNA samples from a letter written by Sickert. Listen.
Claim.
Well, she mainly used DNA analysis. She actually bought a painting by Sickert at great expense, and she cut it up to get the DNA from it. People in the art world were furious.
Now we have two
Che dice alla fine people in the
arts
are?
were furious.
Ah, okay.
Because what she did was taking what? A letter?
No?
No, it wasn't a letter. It was what?
Paint.
A painting. Was a painting.
Painting.
And what she did?
She used them for
Yes, but she cut it. She cut it a bit of the painting to analyze. That's why art lovers were angry with her.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You get it?
Mm-hmm.
At the end, we are going to listen to it again by reading. Okay. Now, let's see if there is evidence that Sickert was abroad at the time of some of the murder.
I can imagine.
And then she compared the DNA from the painting with DNA taken from the letters that Jack the Ripper sent to the police. Patricia Cornwell says that she's 99% certain that Walter Sickert was Jack the Ripper.
But you don't think she's right, do you?
No.
Nothing here?
I don't think her scientific evidence is completely reliable. And there's a lot of evidence which says that Sickert was in France, not London, when some of the women were killed.
What about James Maybrick? Do you think he was the murderer?
Well, somebody found a diary which is supposed to be his, where he admits to being Jack the Ripper. But nobody has been able to prove that the diary is genuine, and personally, I don't think he was the murderer.
Okay, so what about number 4? Did you
It's
get
false.
There is evidence that Sickert was abroad at the time of some of the murders.
Ah, yes, sorry.
Yes.
True.
In France.
True.
Yes,
France.
true. And
Yes.
what about there is a letter that some people think Maybrick wrote confessing to the crimes?
No.
True. True.
No.
It's not completely true. No, it's not true because it wasn't a letter. It was what?
Diary.
It was a diary.
A diary, yes.
Diary, yes. Let's go on.
And Prince Albert, the Queen's grandson.
Well, this for me is the most ridiculous theory. I can't seriously believe that a member of the royal family could be a serial murderer.
So, does he think Inspector Murder that Prince Albert was a serial killer?
False.
It is ridiculous, he
It's
said.
ridiculous. He said that it's not possible. I don't agree, but anyway.
In any case,
fact,
Prince Albert was in
he's so
Scotland when
convinced.
At least 2 of the murders were committed.
Okay, because he was in Scotland where at least 2 of the murders were committed. Okay. So now let's see 7 and 8.
There's been another recent theory, hasn't there, that Jack the Ripper was German?
Yes, this is a new theory based on new research by a Jack the Ripper expert called Trevor Marriott, who is in fact another retired detective like me. He believes that Karl Feigenbaum, a German sailor, was responsible for some, if not all, the 5 murders. Feigenbaum was executed in the electric chair in New York in 1894 for the brutal murder of a woman. And after his death, his lawyer said that he was convinced that his client was Jack the Ripper.
Okay. So, was he executed in London for another murder?
No.
Not in London.
Not in London.
Not in London.
In the United States, yes. And what about Trevor Marriott found that Feigenbaum had traveled to London at the time of the murders? Does he say that? You didn't catch it?
No.
No.
No. Let's go on with 9 and 10.
Marriott has discovered that Feigenbaum was a member of the crew of a ship that was in London at the time of the murders.
True.
True, yes.
Yes.
That's why it's not true that you didn't get it. It was just after.
So it's perfectly possible that he could have been the Ripper.
Do we know what he looked like?
Well, there are no photos of Feigenbaum, but Marriott has made a computer image of him based on descriptions from when he was in prison.
So who do you think the murderer was?
I can't tell you because I don't know.
So you don't think we'll ever solve the mystery?
No, I wouldn't say that. I think one day the mystery will be solved. Some new evidence will appear, and we'll be able to say that the case of Jack the Ripper is finally closed. But at the moment, it's still a mystery, and people like a good mystery.
Okay, so the inspector doesn't want to say who he thinks the murderer is.
True.
Is that true?
It's
or false?
true.
True.
It's not that
Because
he doesn't want to say. It doesn't know.
No.
It doesn't.
Cannot say. It's not that it doesn't want to say, but it can't
Ah.
say because it doesn't know. Okay.
Ah, okay.
And what about 10? It doesn't think the mystery will ever be solved.
False.
False.
True.
False.
No.
No. I think that.
Ah, no, it doesn't see. Sorry.
The negative. Doesn't think.
Okay.
Yes, I think that probably sooner or later they will. Now let's listen to all the interview again. Have we got time? Yes, 5 minutes. With the script. Okay. If I put it here in the middle, it's better.
Yes.
Okay.
5.36. Patricia Cornwell, in her book Jack the Ripper, Case Closed, said that she had identified the murderer and that she was convinced that Jack the Ripper was in fact Walter Sickert, the painter. What evidence did she put forward to support this claim?
Well, she mainly used DNA analysis. She actually bought a painting by Sickert at great expense, and she cut it up to get the DNA from it. People in the art world were furious.
I can imagine.
And then she compared the DNA from the painting with DNA taken from the letters that Jack the Ripper sent to the police. Patricia Cornwell says that she's 99% certain that Walter Sickert was Jack the Ripper.
But you don't think she's right, do you?
No, I don't. I don't think her scientific evidence is completely reliable. And there's a lot of evidence which says that Sickert was in France, not London, when some of the women were killed.
What about James Maybrick? Do you think he was the murderer?
Well, somebody found a diary which is supposed to be his, where he admits to being Jack the Ripper. But nobody has been able to prove that the diary is genuine, and personally, I don't think he was the murderer.
And Prince Albert, the Queen's grandson?
Well, this for me is the most ridiculous theory. I can't seriously believe that a member of the royal family could be a serial murderer. In any case, Prince Albert was in Scotland when at least 2 of the murders were committed.
There's been another recent theory, hasn't there, that Jack the Ripper was German?
Yes, this is a new theory based on new research by a Jack the Ripper expert called Trevor Marriott, who is in fact another retired detective like me. He believes that Karl Feigenbaum, a German sailor, was responsible for some, if not all, the 5 murders. Feigenbaum was executed in the electric chair in New York in 1894 for the brutal murder of a woman. And after his death, his lawyer said that he was convinced that his client was Jack the Ripper. Marriott has discovered that Feigenbaum was a member of the crew of a ship that was in London at the time of the murders. So it's perfectly possible that he could have been the Ripper.
Do we know what he looked like?
Well, there are no photos of Feigenbaum, but Marriott has made a computer image of him based on descriptions from when he was in prison.
So who do you think the murderer was?
I can't tell you because I don't know.
So you don't think we'll ever solve the mystery?
No, I wouldn't say that. I think one day the mystery will be solved. Some new evidence will appear, and we'll be able to say that the case of Jack the Ripper is finally closed. But at the moment, it's still a mystery, and people like a good mystery.
Okay, my dear girls, I think that's everything we can have today. So next time we are going to see question tags. You know, isn't it? Are you? And so on. And we are going to examine some more about question tags. And I think that was the time now. Yes, it's time we go. So for today is everything. Do you want to add anything? No?
No?
No.
Okay.
I haven't understood. Do you want
To add anything? To say something?
no.
No.
Perfect.
It's terrible that a crime like
Yeah.
this is not resolved.
Yeah, no. I think there are so many in history. There should be so many. Carla, I like your denim jacket so much. Your denim shirt is very nice. Yeah, very
Thank
sporty.
you.
Very sporty.
Yes, yes.
Okay, my dear girls. So I just can smell something that is happening here. I don't know what's surprise, surprise.
Every time you let us dream.
Yes,
lunch.
just when you got a lesson. So that is twice a week.
Yes.
Buttare via Desiderio.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I'm satisfied with it. Okay. See you next time. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Big kiss. Bye bye.